And so I was taught and this constant reinforcement of this emotional repression. And that was great for performing the duties that I had to perform. But then if I'm feeling all these feelings and there's nowhere for them to go, areas.
Hi, Dana. You're a fitness coach. Tell me a bit about that. Tell me about that, Dana. I'd like to hear about it.
Hi. Yes. So, a long time ago, I decided that I really liked working with people and I wanted to do something that empowered people. And because my interests were in sports, I felt like this was something that was absolutely aligned. So, as I was working as a college athlete, now they get to work as a college athlete. Then I worked for nothing. It was for the pure passion of playing the sport. I needed extra money. And so a friend of mine had a job at a local fitness studio. And so I joined her and I became a trainer. And then I realized I was really good at it. And I really enjoyed being around people and watching how excited they got when they started seeing things change for their bodies, or they were stronger, or they were able to do things that they weren't able to do in the past. And so that kind of birthed my fitness passion. And then I kind of did my life, and probably about 15 years ago or so, I got back into it as a side job because I'm a high school teacher full time. So that was something that I really, again, I enjoyed. I enjoyed the camaraderie of having people come in and working out and doing all the things. And so then I was getting people together to do events, and we were doing running events. And so it just kind of took off from there. So I'm located in Northern California, about an hour north of San Francisco. And I moved here about 30 years ago from New Jersey. So it was definitely a different transition to some, I don't know, it's a very odd weather system
Well,
here. You go out in the morning wearing a jacket and all
okay,
this
cool.
stuff, and it's
And
possibly
specifically, you're dealing with
very
something
foggy and
around
cold, and
pain,
then
aren't you?
by the afternoon it's 90 degrees. So it's very different than the East Coast.
Are we back? Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
It's half term over here in the UK,
Yep.
so
Lost
I was
you there
just
for a minute.
thinking I'd badly planned really. So thank you. Where were you? Where were we? I was just asking you.
Gotcha.
Yes, yes. So you one of your focuses
About the pain
is
stuff.
about pain management. I'd like to know a bit about that because I've had some experiences of working through that myself in the past. So I'd like to hear your take on it.
Sure. So my foray into the pain world came as a result of me being a chronic pain sufferer for a long time. Probably since the age of about 8, I suffer from migraines. And then as time went on, different things would pop up. I would have a hamstring injury, I'd have a knee injury, I did something to my shoulder. There was always this tension around my neck. And so I had always gone to the doctor, and I had all the scans, I had all the x-rays, and there's nothing, literally there was nothing wrong with me, which was quite frustrating because I could tell you I was having this pain. It was very debilitating, and it really started to make my life very small. And I discovered Dr. John Sarno's book, The Mind Body Prescription. And as I was reading it, he was talking about one personality types who are people that are most likely to suffer from chronic pain. And then on the other aspect, he was talking about how pain moves to get your attention. So I had one instance where I had pain in my right hamstring for, I don't know, almost a year. And then one day it just hopped off into my left hamstring. And I had not done anything differently, but it was just something that kind of came, and I'm sure it was because I stopped paying attention to the one there, but I also was not acknowledging a lot of things that were going on in my life. And so I started doing Dr. Sarno's work, and I started noticing that I didn't need pain medication so much. And so I started to kind of titrate off all of my meds and work toward essentially becoming migraine free. Not 100%. There are times that things just kind of, life becomes lifey. So then I end up with a migraine. But what kind of caused this was I had a period of time that was probably about 15 months where I had a migraine every day. And it was just ridiculous. And again, nothing was literally wrong with me. And going to all the doctors and taking all the drugs, nothing seemed to work. And by doing this protocol, I was able to see results that I had never seen before in my life. And so I decided that other people can benefit from this. And so I'm kind of like the town crier for Dr. Sarno in this part of California. And I'm connecting with other people around the world. And it's been a cool ride. And I think that there's always, when you're doing this work, one of the main things is that you always go to the doctor. And I know there's been some criticism and people are like, well, my pain is real, or I really do have a blown disc, and or something in my back, or something's torn, or whatever it may be. And yes, the biggest thing is, yes, the pain is real. It's your brain's interpretation of a sensation in your body. So I'm not saying that pain isn't real and you can think it away or sing it away or whatever kind of craziness. But there are reasons why pain gets exacerbated. You may go and say, "Oh, my head's a little sore," and you drink a little water, and then all of a sudden your head's not sore, or you get distracted by your child or something, and you're not paying attention anymore, and then you forget that you have a headache. For somebody who has this type of mindset and what he calls like the TMS personality, which is that very type A type personality where the person is a people pleaser and in that manner where they're really kind of overachievers, they will see the headache or feel the headache, and then they will hyperfixate on all the sensations of the headache, and then they will also future trip about what this headache means. And that means like, I won't be able to go to this appointment, I won't be able to do this interview, I won't, be able to pick up my children from school, I won't be, if it's back pain, I won't be able to pick up my children. And then that means I'm a bad mom, or I'm a bad parent, or whatever. And that's the difference between someone else getting a regular headache and then
That's
somebody else
fascinating. That
with this
I
type of
I do
personality that
understand
exacerbates it.
where that comes from, because I think often what happens is we can get ourselves into focusing on pain when it happens, and it's often about the unknown. It's not like the old trick that happens is whenever you feel unwell, you decide that you are well enough to go and call the doctor, and then the moment you call the, I think it's probably what's going on. I was as I was saying, is that the thing about the pain
Yeah.
is that when it's the unknown, or we decide we're unwell, and then the moment we book the appointment to go and see the doctor, miraculously you suddenly feel better, because it's the mind trick is go, now I'm doing something about it, I feel better, and that can include pain itself, does it not? So we can focus on if we focus on the pain rather than trying to get rid of the pain, rather than just allowing it to be there and working through. Would you say that's your interpretation of it?
For sure. And the concept of pushing through or working through, we already do that. Unfortunately, a good portion of chronic pain sufferers are women, and we're notorious for that because there's so many responsibilities that women have. And I don't know why they're not any different than what men have, but I think there's this belief that we have to do more, that we're more responsible for our children, and that head pain can't stop me from doing the things that I need to do. But of course, then when you get home is when you're done. Right. It's that you've done all the things, you've worked up a frenzy to be able to pick them up from school, take them to practices, or do whatever you need to do. But then by the time you get home, you're just roasted and you're unable to do anything. And that was what was happening to me as well, is that I was doing, the key to my day was to just get home. That was the goal, was I just wanted to get home so I can get back in bed. And that really creates a really crappy life. And it's something that I needed to stop. And I see that with certain people. I don't have people in terms of clients that are as debilitated as I am, or I was, excuse me, with pain, but there's definitely interferes. This is an opportunity. I think this is another thing to put in your toolbox. If you're somebody who does suffer from chronic pain, but you're not quite believing what I'm saying, you could give it a try. Um, there are supportive things that you can do to help. I realized that my number one issue was that I was just repressing a lot of emotions. I grew up with a white mom and a black dad. And my mother's biggest thing was like, don't let people see you as weak or needing anything. You're a strong, independent woman, you're a Black woman, or this, whatever. So there was always that message that I got of like, do not let them see you sweat, essentially, right? Going back to the old commercial of do not show any weakness. And then I was also in the military, and the military, you have to be able to perform under pressure and not show that you're having any kind of feelings about anything, right? It's mission first. And so I was taught in this constant reinforcement of this emotional repression. And that was great for performing the duties that I had to perform. But then if I'm feeling all these feelings and there's nowhere for them to go, they find places in your body. So for me, it was head pain. For other people, it could be back pain, foot pain. And it just manifests in different areas. And there's no real indicator of why it chooses a location versus, I think it's just what your body is accustomed to, or maybe it's just an association where you say, I have this old knee thing, and then all of a sudden the knee becomes a thing, or, I had a back problem, or everybody in my family has back problems, so I'm going to have a back problem. It's quite random. The issue is, the best your ligaments and everything looks is when you're first born, right? There's no issue there, right? You haven't put any pressure on your body. Gravity hasn't taken you out. By the time you are over the age of 35-ish, right, the degeneration really becomes visible for certain people, right? So you're going to get the arthritis, you're going to get all those things. Then you go to the doctor and say, oh, I have this pain. And for some of you, it just may be arthritis pain. For if the symptoms last longer than 3 months, then we're in that chronic pain kind of category. That does not include people that have structural abnormalities that may be super debilitating. Obviously, if you're missing a limb or something like that, then you're dealing with a whole different range. I'm talking about people like me, where you have essentially nothing and you have done this. And so, with that clarity that you get from the doctor that you're okay, there's other things that need to be done. When I enlisted in this, I contacted my therapist and I said, I'm going to start doing this work. I don't know where it's going to lead me. Reports are from other people that I've talked to that have done the work that it usually gets worse before it gets better. And so I need to make sure that I'm being supported. And she was well aware. And we set up like checkpoints and made sure that there was homework that was given. She called me out on all my BS when I tried to talk about different things and try to skate over them, and she's like, no. And I was appreciative of the fact that she did that. I did some journaling. I made it in the very beginning, I made it a daily practice where I just really had to get out some of the things and that I couldn't say out loud. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I did it on an iPad so that I can delete everything so nobody would ever know that I wrote it, because that's the biggest thing. I've journaled all my life, but when I journaled, I edited my journal because I thought if I die and somebody reads this, I don't want them to feel like, oh, she's a sad sack who's so depressed and whatever. So I would make sure that I would write like happy things in the journal. And it's like, I gotta even lie to my journal. So I started journaling for real. Like, this person sucks. I can't believe they did this. I hate this. Whatever. And then what I found is that when I put that down, and there's something cathartic about like deleting it, and then I see you. Like, say if I didn't like you and I was mad at you for something, I don't know, you didn't take the garbage out or whatever, and I'm mad at you, and then all of a sudden you come in the room, I'm like, hi hon, how are you? And because now I let it go, so now I'm not festering in this discourse and letting it just riddle my body with all kinds of pains. That's journaling is a good thing. I also started a meditation practice with binaural beats and whatever. Occasionally I use like hypnotherapy. So there's a bunch of different things that I bring in for whatever I decide that I need. Currently, my thing, I'm returned back to tapping, the EFT tapping, and that is something that I love. And really, if I'm super anxious about something, that really just takes the edge off of everything. But I realize that this is constant work, that this is not a pill, which is what I want, right? I mean, the goal of somebody who suffers from chronic pain is really the pill, right? We just want, please cure me, let it be gone. Thank you, Jesus. Let me go on with my life. And the reality is that we're humans, and being a human is super messy, and things aren't the same every day. The weather's going to change. People are going to be upset with you. You're going to be upset with people. You may not feel 100% because you have a cold or something. And so there's a lot of emotions that kind of flow with that. And I'm probably still recording. Martin, I love you so much. I'm so sorry that this is happening. I was in a flow, man.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's why I love Riverside, because you can do that, right? You can just go
Yeah,
in and
no,
delete
that's not a
everything.
problem. We can go
You
with
may
that.
have to delete all the
So
little
you
conversations
were
I have
right
with you while
mid-flow
you're
there.
gone.
It was flowing so nicely. I'm going to make a rule. Don't record a podcast during part.
Yeah. Yes, not a problem. Yeah. So anyway, just the concept of having like all these different tools in my toolbox that I can go to that allow me to feel supported. And that's a big thing. And just also the probably one of the biggest things was stop talking about my pain, which was really hard because for so long it was a part of my life, and it became like a chronic question for people. We're like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, how's your head? How are your migraines been, or something like that. And so I had to stop talking about it. And I was like, oh, I'm doing okay, because of the fact that I was reinforcing the pain by having conversations and describing it and getting so visceral with it. And so there was a
Something
personality
I've learned
change
since
that
I've been
needed to
doing these
occur for
podcasts
me
and
to
talking to
also
different
get to this
people
point.
and through my life as well is this concept of actually you saying no, don't talk about my pain, but I can talk to my pain and I can say, okay, pain, thank you for being there and letting me know that you're here because you want to protect me. I'm okay. I'm fine. And then, so it's like there's that concept that I've come across. Another concept is with the traditional Chinese medicines is the about the meridian system we have in the body, which is the electrical pulses which go through like the veins and arteries through your body. And sometimes pain, I think, is caused because there's like a blockage in the meridian system. So the meditation
Hmm.
is the ability to focus on focus on those electrical systems and allow those blockages to unblock. So I'm talking about particularly about where we
Damn, you were doing so well.
was I was talking about. Yeah, I was just saying about the meridian system and how how accessing the that to get rid of the blockages can also help with the pain. And it's also, I think, the thing is like you say, when sometimes when we deny emotional pain and we're not honest with ourselves, that can manifest in physical pain. And like I say, it's different if you've broken a leg or something. If you broke the leg or something, then that, and
Yeah,
again,
for
that
sure.
pain's there to protect the broken leg because you don't. If you couldn't feel it, then you're going to make it 10 times worse. I think that's one of the dodgy things I think about the kind of the opiate medications that are about in big pharma and so on is that people taking too much of that, then they end up actually damaging themselves even more because they're not feeling the pain that's there to protect.
Right. Well, and the other thing too about that is that there are sometimes when people are injured that they don't feel the pain, and it could be a absolute severe injury. But while they're distracted and doing whatever they need to do, extracting themselves from something, or, fleeing or whatever, they don't notice. And then as soon as someone points out, like, oh, there's a bone sticking out of your arm or something like that, that's when they freak out and everything starts to flood. So, if anything, that kind of shows how the emotionality of things can interfere with your pain perceptions, right? And that you have this ability to ignore pain until it's absolutely in your face. There's plenty of studies. There's the Boulder back pain study. There's all these and I appreciate this because now there's so much science behind why we need to look at other supportive things to get rid of pain.
To
So
make
I
it
don't
last
remember
more
what
than
I
a
was
few
talking.
minutes. Yeah, yeah,
So
I've
well,
forgotten as well now. It's
uh, well, I'll give you. Let's maybe we'll do like a wrap up kind of thing or whatever. So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there there are different people out there that are studying chronic pain and chronic pain cessation. In the UK, you have Georgie Oldfield and the SERPA organization. They're fantastic, and there's a lot of SERPA practitioners like scattered all over Europe. So that's if you're somebody who's suffering and you've heard the crappy words of, I don't see anything wrong, or there's a surgery coming up that you're not feeling 100% confident in getting, especially around back stuff. It seems like that seems to be more the surgical approach, or the prescription. I think for a lot of back pain, it happens to be surgery. You can always find a SERPA practitioner, have a discussion with them, I'm not saying commit to it, and find out whether or not you feel like this is something that you want to go forward with, especially with back surgeries, because of the fact that if they're not done properly, they could be so debilitating and really, I mean, not that the pain you're suffering in is not debilitating at the time, but there's something about structurally altering your back that could possibly change how you live in your future. And so, you know how it's always proper protocol to get like a second or third opinion. I would choose a SERPA practitioner as my second or third opinion, just to make sure that you feel 100% in your heart that this is the right thing for you to do moving forward. In the United States, we have people all over the country. We have practitioners in Michigan, Colorado, Los Angeles, New York. There's all different types of people that accommodate you. There are tons of books out now for people to refer to. Sarno's books have a tendency of being very medicalized because he was a doctor. So he approached everything, and there's some areas that can be a little dense. There's different people now like Alan Gordon, Nicole Sachs, Dan Buglio, who have written books that are more for lay people or for the common human who just wants to know, is this the right thing or not? And I really feel like you just like any practitioner, you need to find somebody who matches your personality, because not having the right team behind you really doesn't help, right? If you go to your doctor and you bring this up and your doctor says, this is hogwash, I don't want to talk to you about this because I'm looking at your scans and I could see that you have, like for me, a torn ligament, or not a torn ligament, a torn cartilage in my knee. And I mean, I'm doing all the things, right? I can walk, I can run, I can do whatever with the torn cartilage in my knee, and it doesn't hurt. So that says a lot. But the point is that if I'm with a practitioner who doesn't believe me or doesn't care or thinks the work is stupid, especially in this time and age, right? We all know, we talk about stress induced illness, and it's okay to be stressed, but it's not okay to take what other people are discovering are the proper protocols to reducing stress. And that's the biggest thing. And I mean, that's what you want to do, right? Is that you want to take all the tools, you want to have people that are on your side that believe you when you say something, that are willing to talk to you for more than 15 minutes, that are not just throwing pills at you to make you go away and leave them alone, but also understand on your part that there is a dedication. I think as much dedication as I put into getting away from pain and doing all the research and everything else and trying to find the newest thing that was going to cure me, I had to channel that into the right thing to do to not go back there. So I do take the time in the morning to meditate or to tap. I do take time in the afternoon. I make sure that I keep my schedule kind of clear and I don't need to keep busy just because I feel like being busy is productive, and then everybody thinks I'm more productive because I do more things, right? So I'm taking time to breathe, and I do whatever I feel like doing. So if I want to meditate, if I want to do breath work, if I want to do whatever, I do those things, and I find ways to do them in my day. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to sit down and do 5 hours of all these different things. It's kind of like going to the gym. People think that you need to go to the gym for 3 hours to get the body you want. It's like, no, you can do that in 30 minutes. You don't need to spend your whole day there, because half the time people are just sitting on their phones anyway, which is a whole
Yeah.
different.
It's amazing, isn't it? What the things that we hear about, and what we think what we choose to believe. And it's very much what you were saying about it has to be like a trust, I think, and a belief that if we're going to a practitioner to help us, that needs to have that rapport. If the rapport's not there, then nothing's going to work.
And you
It's
need to
not going
fire
to.
them. Get rid
Yeah,
of them.
yeah,
Right? Just think about it as it's a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whoever, right? It's like, if I don't like you, then I'm not going to call you for a second date. Don't date your like if your doctor sucks, then cut the date. Find somebody else. I know some areas, you may not have a choice, but I flew to Michigan to have somebody give me, fit me a mouthpiece. So it's amazing the things you will do to circumvent the system if it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. It's a really fascinating thing. One thing I'm going to uh, ask you, which is really around themed around my podcast, is to ask you what brings you peace, Dana.
Nature, really being out in nature and just all the smells, just even, some days I work from home, so just going outside and sitting in the middle of my backyard and just listening to birds chirping and feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, and just that's probably like the biggest happy place I could ever be. And then if I have a choice and if I was able to like snap my fingers, it would be the beach. Like just
Yeah,
being the beach and feeling all the sensations. And again, I'm a very like I like all the sensations, and it's kind of funny because I spent so much time like trying to drug the sensations out of me, but I really enjoy like especially the beach because it's so visceral, with the sounds and the smells and the feel of the sand. And that's when I meditate, that's the place I go to. Is I go to my beach in my chair just chilling, looking at the water, feeling the warmth, that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I do something similar. I like to walk along if I'm feeling stressed at any time. I like to go for a walk along the promenade. I walk down by the beach, right by the sea, and actually, because there's actually less people out there, there's a
Mhm.
big emotional space out at sea, and they're just able to just let that. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? The way that emotions and physical pain are so connected
Yeah.
in many ways.
I had no idea.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so here's your chance for to promote your own podcast and what you do. So far away.
Okay. So, you could find me on I'm on TikTok a lot. I'm on Instagram a lot, and it's Pain Free Athlete Podcast. You can also check out the website is painfreeathletepodcast.com. And if you're in the local area and if you're in California and you want to do a triathlon, I host a triathlon as well for athletes that are just beginning to get into the triathlon world. It's a pool triathlon, so you get to swim in a pool, so you could see the bottom and nothing is going to come and eat you or take you away. Or it's a nice warm pool. Yeah. So, and I have that event coming up in September of 2025. Usually, the last weekend in September, we do the race, and it's a fun race, and it's an empowering race, and that's the biggest thing that I enjoy about it is because anybody can do it, and it's really about an experience for the athlete, and it's not about like me making money, which I don't. But it's really about that whole allowing them to be vulnerable and supporting athletes as they go through the process. Because triathlon is kind of a tough sport, and distance doesn't matter because a lot of times it's very emotional, and it's absolutely phenomenal watching people conquer the course and feel really good about it. So yeah, so you can
It's
find me in
interesting,
all the
isn't it?
things, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or you want to learn more. I am available for chatting.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because we often think of wealth as being money, and I tend to think of sometimes that actually money doesn't exist. The wealth is in experience. The wealth is in living. The wealth is in
Freedom.
enjoying our lives. Freedom. The wealth. That wealth is health as well, isn't it? If we've got our health
Freedom
to
of
whatever level
choices,
that
and
is,
yeah, and being able to live your life the way you would like to live.
beautiful. Thank you so much,
Not a
Dana, for being on
problem.
the
Thank you for
podcast
having me.
today. Sorry, we had some glitches today, but hopefully we can pin that together and we'll sort that out from another time. Okay, so bless
It'll
you
be great.
and take care
Thank
and
you
have a
so
good
much.
day.
Okay.
Right,
I'm going to keep my tab
bye for
open
now.
so nothing gets cut lost. And so I was taught in this constant reinforcement of this emotional repression. And that was great for performing the duties that I had to perform. But then if I'm feeling all these feelings and there's nowhere for them to go, they find places in your body. So for me, it was head pain. For other people, it could be back pain, foot pain. And it just manifests in different areas.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow, like, and share. Thank you very much. Martin, Peace Unplugged.